All right, folks, welcome back. This is Yankees Unloaded. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. Joining me is my guy, the man who has been holding it down without me, Gary Sheffield Jr. What up, my guy? I'm glad we're talking Yankees baseball again, and I'm sorry I missed yesterday.
It's all good, dude. Really, I have no idea how we lost this game today.
I don't either.
I trusted Cookie wasn't his usual self. I know it's a little ridiculous to have expectations of Carlos Carrasco, especially at this stage of his career, but he's really been serviceable, and we didn't get that. But there are a lot of good stuff that happened today, right? Aaron Judge being one of those guys. And again, if you guys are new here, make sure you guys like and subscribe to this video. We really appreciate it. But Jake, I want to talk about the game first, right? And then, of course, we're going to get to Judge and whether or not he can have the greatest season of all time. And I think both of us do think that can happen. But again, the Yankees pitching did fine, right? After Cookie came out of this game, and you get 3 1/3, 4 earned runs. Well, the bullpen did pretty good work. And I did talk about in my solo episode that this Yankees bullpen in general hasn't been overworked. Our starting pitching has worked some innings, and we are rested. So wasn't surprised at all to see guys like Hill and Cruz, right? And even Devin Williams come into this game and pitch well. And somehow, some way, we just fell up just short. I think Michael Kay almost jumped out of his seat when Ben Rice hit that ball into right field and it was caught. And that was like the worst point of the night tonight for me. But how'd you feel about tonight?
Tonight was really frustrating because this is a game that they should have won. I thought they had a really good lineup today. Really liked the way they worked around the guys that are struggling. Despite the big names, Aaron Boone was like, all right, we're not going to do what we did last year. Because I feel like he's doing a lot of things that he just simply never even, considered last year until it was too late. I liked seeing Bellinger near the bottom. I know he pinch hit, but guys like that where I didn't love seeing Reyes in the lineup, but there's not really much you can do, right? There's really not anybody else if Jazz is injured and everything. I like seeing Peraza. I understand he didn't have the best day today, but he got on, and then I really liked the way he tagged up from second, got to third on that, and then scored. I thought today was just really frustrating because, at the top of the lineup, you got everything you were looking for. Ben Rice just missed that home run that would have absolutely changed the game. But Aaron Judge just continues. And there were two guys that I would give game balls to in this one. It's Aaron Judge, obviously, and it would be Fernando Cruz, who had 4 strikeouts in inning and 2/3. I think really those two guys were just on another level tonight. And Aaron Judge, kind of talking about our title. Aaron Judge is on a new level or on another level every night. He still has that on base streak going. Just about every game except for one, I believe, Gary, that he hasn't gotten on base in. That is utterly insane. And when you talk about a guy who's a 427 batting average at the end of the first month, you could say, oh, yeah, it's early. Yeah, it is early. But 427 after a full month is insane. It actually, believe it or not, and I know we just added Josh Gibson to MLB history. So he is now at 466. He's the all-time leader in single season batting average. But Gary, I don't know if you knew this, Nap LaJoy before him had a 426 batting average, was the all-time leader single season. Aaron Judge has a higher batting average than the original leader before we added Josh Gibson in the Negro Leagues to the MLB stats. So to me, that's insane. That's utterly insane. Now, again, I understand it's 1 month. But, Gary, I'm not saying he'll hit over 400. He doesn't have to. But I think he's going to be hitting in the high 300s. And when you talk about a hitter that's considered a slugger and all of that, and he's going to strike out a bunch, and he's hitting in the high 300s, that is a hard thing to do. That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, and I watched it. There was a player I saw in the mid-2000s by the name of Maglio Ordonez. And this player was hitting 400 for a while, right? They had dudes like Chipper Jones, right? There were a ton of different players in baseball history that they were asking for comment about whether or not this guy could hit 400, and pretty much everyone answer was this: well, it depends on the start, right? If you're hitting 430, yeah, maybe he's not going to hit 400. Does he really have to consider this the greatest season of all time, if not one of the? Because you have to remember, Like some of the seasons that I think about for greatest seasons ever is probably Barry Bonds, 01 or 04. You can take your pick. 01, he hit 73 bombs. He drove in 137. His batting average was 328. Ridiculous, right? 04, 45 homers. This is the year they did not pitch to him. They simply chose to do something else. Jeff Kent was hitting behind him, by the way, and his average was 362. I think that number right there, 362, 370, is in conversation right now for this player. And Jake, before we went live, you were using a phrase, he's got all the clubs in his bag. And that's something that you were going to go to. And when I really think about a player and being an all-time great, being arguably the greatest hitter of all time, in order to do that, you need to show power. You need to show the ability to draw a walk. Just walk over to first base, when not to swing, when to swing, right? You need to be able to hit the ball hard where luck doesn't play such a role in your output, right? We hear about luck all day long. I've seen our chat. We've talked about it. This guy's unlucky. That guy's unlucky for a month and a half. And that month and a half can derail you from one of the greatest seasons of all time to just a very good season, arguably an MVP season. Aaron Judge right now is finding all the holes, and anytime he's being pitched to on the corners, he's finding ways to walk over to first base. He is a perfected hitter in a sport that really there is no perfection. It's incredible what he's doing, and frankly, and this is no knock on Ben Rice or Cody Bellinger, who's been protecting Aaron Judge for the longest now in this season, yeah, it's just not mattering, right? Their output doesn't matter. People were saying, well, if Jazz Chisholm hits this way, that first opening series, and I told everybody, it doesn't matter what Jazz does. And sure enough, Jazz went ice cold. He hit 100 for the next 3 weeks. Did it change Aaron Judge's output? Not a lick, did it? And that's how good this player is. He's not Juan Soto, okay? He's not Manny Ramirez. He's not David Ortiz. He doesn't need lineup protection. This is the most complete offensive package in the sport. It is not close.
Yeah, it's insane. I actually brought up the closest thing to today, like the modern day stats. And because obviously you have a bunch of guys in the 1920s, 1910s, 1940s. I don't really feel like the game translates the same way. I mean, Ted Williams, as great as he was, it was a different game then. So I felt like closer to now, Tony Gwynn, 1994, 394. If Aaron Judge were to have a better average than Tony Gwynn, could you even imagine? Like, I mean, to me, that ends all doubt. The Ohtani thing is out the window, because I know there's still Dodger fans that don't watch a lick of Yankees baseball that still say Ohtani's a better hitter. He's not a better hitter. He's not a better hitter than Aaron. There's not one soul in baseball that is a better hitter than Aaron Judge right now. And the question is going to be, when it's all said and done, the way he's hitting, and keep in mind, he's 33. So, I mean, he's getting up there in age, but he's getting better too. It's kind of weird. But the way I see it, Gary, is when it's all said and done, he might end up being the greatest hitter of all time. He might not have the stats to prove it, but we might be looking at the greatest hitter of all time when it's all said and done. Now, I understand it might be a little premature with that. I think a big thing about greatest hitter of all time is that, longevity. So being able to do it that long, to me, that matters. Like Tony Gwynn was hitting 300 when he was like 42, right? Like that's crazy. I'm not asking Judge to do that, but have this, this production. Gary, I do think he is going to have an incredible year, because whether people realize it or not, he's got 10 home runs now to end May. Do you remember where he was at the end of May last year?
I mean, he was probably hitting $175. He was atrocious.
He might have had 2 home runs. I'm going to look it up. He might have had 2. I don't believe so, though. I think he only had 1.
Can I bring up a factor, though? I mean, if you really think about it, though, Jake, isn't it way harder to hit today than it ever was? I mean, you look at batting averages.
Guys throwing 100. What the average you have that you always bring up?
Yeah, I mean,
the average velocity.
The average velocity in the sport has gone up 3 miles an hour.
Which is insane.
Is that a direct correlation to why guys can't hit? No. There are other factors, right? Spin. understanding tunneling. And tunneling has happened in baseball. It's not like tunneling was just invented in the last 10 years. But the point remains is that pitching has evolved the most. Okay? Hitters, they just now figured out we can use torpedo bats, and everyone's acting like they're running around with chickens with their heads cut off. They don't understand what's going on. Hitting really hasn't developed too much, right? But pitching, you turn on a game on a random Tuesday night, doesn't matter. Take your pick. Go get a league pass and turn on a game, and you're seeing 100 miles an hour with movement located. So, yeah, it's very difficult. Is hitting 300 today the same as it was 15 years ago? I don't think so, Jake. So, as far as I'm concerned with Aaron Judge, the last question that he has, in my opinion, for people to yield and say, this is maybe not even considered one of the greatest baseball players we've ever seen, this might be the greatest hitter we've seen, is going to be October. And I know people don't want to hear this, but it's reality. I've covered this team for a while now, and at this point, does it necessarily... There are a lot of people across baseball that say, I don't really care what he does in April. But I always try to remind folks, it is April. He's got to hit in April. That's the job. Yeah. He gets paid a lot of money to do so. And as the months go on, and we're looking at an MVP season, I fully expect him to win MVP. But you get into October, this podcast absolutely will raise expectations, or at the very least keep them the same, to see this player. When it starts getting cold out, you start seeing people's breath, and the games start to really matter. Yeah, I need to see this version of Aaron Judge. I don't care who's hitting after you, because you've shown me you can do it without that lineup protection. So if he does that, very similar to what Alex Rodriguez did in the 2009 season, this player, I think, will get the credit he deserves, but you got to do it first.
Yeah, and your mom is like, it's April, gentlemen. No? Yes, it is. I just I totally butchered that. So in April of last year, Gary, he finished with 6 home runs, and he was batting .220. So he's off to a 4+ home runs this year, and he's doubled his bat. He's close to doubled it. So it's pretty crazy when you think about that.
Like, I will say, though, it's probably harder to win the Triple Crown right today. Again, like I try to bring up, this is not an apples-apples comparison. Players today, if you had to be realistic, and you said, well, what are all these players in the sport really trying to do? They're pretty much, Jake, trying to have a high ops. They're trying to walk or hit a homer. And if they strike out, they don't really care because it's better than hitting a ground ball to second base. That's what they're being taught. So certain aspects of the Triple Crown are very difficult to attain. Batting average is one where if you have a high batting average, there really isn't too many players in this sport that can really challenge a 325 batting average. There's just not. Like Paul Goldschmidt is an outlier. But you look across baseball, some of the best hitters in the sport, you look up and they're hitting 260. So
it's true.
Pretty crazy. I'm just interested to see how much he can retain this, because this is so unsustainable that at some point or another, you've got to give him Barry Bonds treatment. Like literally. There's no Jeff Kent hitting behind Aaron Judge. It looks like Ben Rice. And no disrespect to Ben Rice. We love him on this podcast. Yeah, the choice is clear. You pitch to those guys. You don't let this player beat you.
But you know what that means? That keeps his average intact.
It sure does, yeah.
So that's where you start to wonder. You're like, well, it sucks, but take your base. Already get automatic on first. Obviously, threat of a home run is probably better, but automatic first base. His average is not moving an inch. It's going to start happening, Gary. You're absolutely right. We've been talking about it. I don't know. I feel like the Brewers had the right idea. They were the first ones to start doing it, the first series of the year. And no one's really bothered since. I think maybe the Pirates had like a, I think they kind of threw around him when it was obvious they were trying to walk him. But, yeah, and Golden Spatian, I like this a lot. I think Judge becoming more of a well-rounded hitter may be beneficial for his postseason hitting. I actually feel like these coincide, and the reason why I say that is I feel like Judge has been working on his hitting as far as his approach. he does have a different approach. He's he's not doing the same thing he did last year. I've already noticed there's a difference. You can see it, right? I mean, you basically all you need to do is come through, shorten up the swing, flare over the second baseman who's playing in, and there you go. You have a hit. You're going to bring in the guy on third. And a lot of the guys on the team, they're trying to swing for the fences. But
you feel like he's trying to do less?
I feel like he's trying to do less, and I think that's why you're not seeing as many home runs as maybe you would think you'd see the way he's playing, because you're like, he's got a 427 batting average, but he only has 10 home runs. You would think if Aaron Judge last year had a 427 batting average, he'd have like 20 home runs in the first month. You know what I mean? So I do think it's led to him maybe sacrificing a home run or two for a single and being more sustainable. And I think this is preparing him for October, because you've said it on this show before. He has a completely different hitting coach. He has a private hitting coach. A lot of these guys do. Would not be surprised if Aaron Judge is tired of hearing all the outside, stuff about the postseason and whatnot, because I think there's a lot of truth to that. Is Aaron Judge, and let me ask you this, Gary, is Aaron Judge considered a weak, high leverage hitter throughout the season?
Honestly, throughout the season, I would say no. I don't really have a problem with Aaron Judge and high leverage. The issue, I would say, with the difference between October ball and the regular season, obviously there's a ton of pressure, but the sample size is so small. And you don't necessarily get an opportunity to show up and say, well, everyone's waiting for me to come through. Let me do less here, right? That's not necessarily the mentality. And I've listened to Alex Rodriguez, and he was sort of talking about what's the difference between you and 09 versus you every other year, where everyone's just pointing the finger at you saying, why aren't you hitting the same way? Well, trying to do too much. So does Aaron Judge bring this mentality in October? I have no idea. He's the only one that can tell us that, and we're going to find out what it really looks like. And if he does, it's going to change the entire perspective on this player. But Jake, I guess what's so interesting about this is how it looks if you project that idea of trying to do less, right, and become a more complete hitter, how it translates to the rest of the roster. Because when you look at some of our young players, and I want to really circle Anthony Volpe, and this isn't going to be used as an opportunity to pick on him, because I think it can be an opportunity for growth. If you look at Volpe right now, he's swinging a hotter bat, no questions asked. He's hitting, right? Yeah. He's hitting over 300 his last 7 games played. He's hitting 321. So he's giving us an output. And obviously defensively, he made a mistake today, but overall defensively, he's been great. So Volpe, the one thing I've always noticed is his refusal to draw a walk. This is actually something the Yes broadcast has brought up a couple of times, but no one really talks about what it means. The ability to not chase. They talk about Aaron Judge's chase rate. In April, it was the least he chased pitches in any month of his baseball career. That tells you how good and how much he's mastered his craft. Now, why would a player do this? It sounds self-explanatory. You'd say, okay, well, why would a player want to chase pitches? Obviously, you'd assume they're going to get better at it. Well, how many players on our roster or in any other roster in baseball do you say, yeah, that guy won MVPs and he still started chasing less as the year started going on? It doesn't really happen too often. But what it tells me, in our chat, people said, well, if he walks more, it increases his opportunity to hit 400. That's exactly what our chat said. So why is it that when we look at an Anthony Volpe, we look at a Ben Rice, we look at a Wells, we don't say, well, in order to raise their batting average potentially to our expectations, why don't they just walk more? Why don't we just expect them to chase less? That may be the adjustment, right? You look at an Anthony Volpe in the 2024 season last year, he played 160 games. He walked 42 times, Jake. 42. He struck out 156 times. Now, most people would just say, well, he struck out 156 times. That's terrible. But they don't talk about what's happening on the other side. Is he getting on base? Does he have an ability to not chase pitches? So I want to use this as an opportunity to show what's so great about Aaron Judge. What really makes him this good of a player? He does not chase pitches. He refuses. It's what makes Juan Soto great. It's what made an Alvarez great in Houston. they simply refuse to chase pitches out of the zone, and it makes them pretty much invincible.
Yeah, and I think kind of adding on to that, really where I was going with the whole, bringing up the high leverage thing.
Yeah.
It tells me, because his high leverage numbers are also insane during the regular season. They're great. Mm-hmm. Tells me he has the clutch gene. So it's not like he can't come through in the clutch. We know he can. What makes October different, like you said, sample size, but I think it's the same. It's no different than Ben Rice after the 3 home run game, Jazz Chisholm. I think he's trying to swing for the fences. I think even Aaron Judge, the best hitter in baseball, when October came around last year, you saw him. He wasn't taking the pitches he normally does. He was swinging at really everything. And it felt like there were times where he was even swinging on, an attempted pitch around where they're not going to intentionally walk him because it looks silly. But, because Juan Soto's on first. But at the same time, they're going to pitch around him. And Aaron Judge would swing at those pitches. It almost seemed like he really wanted to get a hit in that at-bat. And I noticed that. I actually went back and I watched a lot of those at-bats he had. And it was the same thing where pitchers are really just they're not challenging him. Like you always say, they're nibbling at the strike zone or staying away from it. And Judge kept trying to really swing at those pitches that they're purposely not really throwing in the zone. And then at that point, you could see a reliever or a starter for the Dodgers or whoever. You could see the light bulb turn on like, wait a minute, the confidence is there. Now I can go after this hitter. I got him right where I want him, and I didn't even want him to begin with at the dish. So I feel like that was my issue with Judge, is that there are guys, we've talked about it in the past, just, we're big sports fans. There are guys that just can't play. Until tonight, I thought Julius Randle was just a player that could not work out in the postseason, right? There are players that just don't work in the postseason. It just doesn't work. They don't have that, that high leverage factor. They don't have the clutch gene. Guys have it, guys don't. And there's some that don't. Judge has it. So to me, this is something that he can figure out. And I think he's taking the steps towards being a better hitter, which will likely put him in a better situation to stick with his approach and not shy away from it. So really, Gary, that's what I would say about that. I think, end of the day, Aaron Judge is the best hitter in baseball. I think he's the best player in baseball until Ohtani starts pitching again, which I think is in a month or so. But right now, the Yankees without Aaron Judge, I don't even want to think where they'd be. So, October's a long ways away, and I'm not going to rush it to get here. But, I definitely think it's a fair thing to bring up. One thing that's annoying, though, and it's not you or anybody in the comments section, but it's just like every time, I can't believe how good Aaron Judge is, or, he hits a home run. Yeah, but how many rings does he have? Or how did he do in October? And it's like, at some point or another, you just got to let him actually play out the rest of the year. I do think that World Series was really good experience. I think he can build off the failure. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a joyless way to watch the game. And that goes for all sports, right? You watch LeBron in 2011.
LeBron, perfect example.
You can't enjoy this player because he just can't get it done, right? Any player with expectations, is he living up to all of those expectations? If not, we have to act like 6 months of the season is just irrelevant. And we won't do that because you know what? If the Yankees didn't make the postseason, that probably tells me the story that Aaron Judge wasn't heroic. He wasn't his usual self. Without Aaron Judge he carries a baseball team, guys. It's insane. You don't see players carry. Look around the league. No one carries their baseball team. Aaron Judge does. Okay? You look at the Dodgers in the postseason. They won the World Series. Ohtani didn't do a lick in that World Series. He doesn't carry that team. Now, mind you,
but he has a ring, so
he has a ring.
That up.
Now, mind you, Ohtani, in my opinion, when he was pitching, he's the best player in the world. That was my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at most other teams in the sport, they sort of go where the complementary players, how their ability to get on base, and then it sets up different situations. No one really cares about the context of why Aaron Judge struggles or what could possibly be at work. They don't care. So my thing is we are 100% going to notice, and we're going to pay attention because, Jake, you just brought it up. We're going to look at the approach. Does it change? It's really about, is he chasing pitches? If this player refuses to chase pitches outside the zone when teams are choosing to nibble, and rightfully so, they should be, well, Jake, I guess if he chooses not to chase and be the similar player of who he is now, I have no doubt in my mind he's going to turn this around, which is why I think both of us predicted it is going to change. So yeah. I'm excited to see it. There's clearly a lot of pressure for it to happen. He knows that, but there's nothing wrong with pressure. He didn't re-sign in New York to avoid pressure. If he didn't want pressure, he would have signed with the Giants. So
that's a good example.
I will definitely give him the benefit of the doubt there. He's not shying away from what this really is. So I'm excited to see, because I think he has a chance to put up a top 3 season in the history of this game. Probably hit 60-plus homers. Maybe I'd probably say 55-plus homers, hit 375. He's going to be a runaway with the MVP if he stays healthy. I'm just going to say it now.
He just needs.
So I'm excited to watch that.
Man. He had so he had 14 home runs last year in May. That was his biggest month, right?
Right.
Then he had 11 in June. He had 12 in August, but the rest. And keep in mind, like he still hit like 8 home runs in July, 7 home runs in September. So it wasn't like he didn't. But if you want to break that all-time record single season, you are going to need to have those, those double digits. But yeah, last thing I'll say about it is there's a player I love. He's one of my all-time favorite players. And as far as all-time favorites, I actually put this out there on Twitter. He'd be on my Mount Rushmore. Alex Rodriguez.
Oh, who's that?
I think he's I think Judge is the greatest hitter the Yankees have had since A-Rod. I think A-Rod before him was the best Yankee hitter that we've seen since. So, I think in a similar way as I've compared him, last year, and you just brought up recently, A-Rod's offensive struggles in the postseason. We saw how that went. We saw that turned around. I see a very similar fate with Aaron Judge. I do. So.
Yeah, A-Rod was, first of all, can you imagine what the 2009 postseason would look like without him? We don't even beat Minnesota in the first round.
No.
Doesn't even happen. So, yeah, I mean, in general, it'll be interesting to see what the difference is. Because I'll tell you this, as a 33-year-old player, it only compounds the pressure. It's not going to help. I'll tell you that right now. I know that experience is just golden in all these situations. But, guys, when you know you're 33, and that's not old in the real world, but when you're a professional athlete playing at the top of a sport, you can just wake up at 35, which seems normal to us, and you don't look the same player. All of a sudden, Judge hitting 283. It can change that fast, especially at a player who's 6'7", 6'8", north of 280 pounds. Okay, so there is a ton of pressure, and that's what makes it so exciting, in my opinion. I think we should welcome that pressure. We're not going to shy away from it. We're surely going to bring it up on the show, and I think also to some degree, what's happening at the top of the lineup hasn't happened in a while in a Yankees lineup. I think what Goldschmidt and maybe moving Grisham, and do I trust Grisham in a postseason series hitting 2? Not really, but it is interesting how we're sort of getting there right now, right? We have a very odd lineup.
I would say no, Rich, because Donnie Baseball only played 5 games in the postseason, and he was like, I would say Giancarlo Stanton, like that, because, I mean, he hit 417 and had over 1,000 OPS. Donnie Baseball did, right? But he only played 5 games because he had 1995 and then he retired, Gary.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't make the comparison myself. I mean, I appreciate the chat. I don't see it. And Yankees for the win with a super thank you for the 5 says, without Judge's regular season, we don't make it to the postseason. That is true. So I'll give them a pass. I probably won't. I probably won't give it a pass. It's been bad, right? Outside of the Class A homer, yeah, Judge has not been Aaron Judge. So I'm not going to give that a pass, but I see where you're going. We still want to give him credit. Just look at 2023 when he got hurt, the season crashed. Well, to be fair, in 2023, I'm fairly certain that was the year that Josh Donaldson was also swinging a pool noodle for the season. So, yeah. But to your point, with no Judge, we were atrocious, which is part of the reason why Jeff Passan got on the air and said that we would win like 70-some games the next year. So
I remember
it's a little bit overzealous there.
Yeah.
Was it 77 games? It was not a good guess, but that was the reason that he did that.
Yeah, and then real quick, because we're going to get into our Prophet X Picks segment, real quick here. I just wanted to address this.
What's that?
Jeremy, I need a Volpe apology video ASAP. Well, we're never going to apologize in like I mean, there's never going to be an apology video because that's not our type of content. That's kind of like just not our type of content anyway. So we might say, Volpe goes off and continues. I mean, keep in mind, like his batting average is still like 234. Considering.
I cannot wait to answer this.
So for me, I just look at it like if he keeps this up, we're gonna talk better about him. But I don't think I wouldn't say we're totally dumping on Volpe every single time. I know you just brought up you actually were willing to negate and nullify his pretty big error today. And
yes, I was.
Like, because he's swinging a hot bat as of late, hitting 300 the last 7.
That's right.
If you come in, because I want to defend you here really quick.
Oh, thanks.
Of course, I got you. If you come in here and, you have an idea that I want to go after a certain player, you're not taking the time to go and be like giving this guy the benefit of the doubt in a 7-game stretch that makes him look good.
Why would I bring that up?
Yeah, you would bring up splits. Like, here, I'll do it real quick, right? If I wanted to rip Anthony Volpe to high hell, okay, I would bring up his splits from the last 15 days. That doesn't make him look good. Last 7, he's hitting 320. But, if I wanted to hate on Volpe, I would just bring up he's hitting 259 the last 15. Why would I say the last 7? That makes, if I don't like the guy, right?
It's counterproductive.
So the point being is, I don't think that's fair. I understand, Jeremy, you clearly like him a lot, and I get it. He is an exciting player when he's on. But I think our criticism was definitely fair, and I don't necessarily think we've been unfair about the criticism because it's very simple on this show. We have a job to do. We have to hold guys accountable, okay? We get it all the time. Well, it's you guys couldn't do any better. No, we're not paid to do that. We're not paid to go out there. We know we're not MLB baseball players. But our job is to hold these guys accountable. And our job is also to give them credit when credit's deserved.
That's
Ben
right.
Rice looked like a pool noodle last year after he hit the 3 home runs. But I never gave up on him. And Gary didn't give up on him. And then sure enough, I kept saying, look at the spring training. I think this is going to translate. Gary's like, yep. Looking at the numbers, I think it's going to translate. And look at the way he's hitting now. So we never give up on anybody. I mean, look at Trent Grisham. I didn't want Trent Grisham even on the roster going into this year, really. And then all of a sudden, now we're calling him Trent Bonds. But am I going to be like, because of how, like, it's no different than Pablo Reyes. If Reyes started hitting 340, I don't hate Pablo Reyes. I hate mediocrity. I hate mid. I hate less than mid. And if Pablo Reyes is giving out bad production, I'm not going to be a fan of it. I don't want to play him. But if Pablo Reyes comes up to the dish and he's hitting 340 and all of a sudden he's the leadoff hitter of the team and he's killing it. So I don't subscribe to the notion that we have any of these, like, we're unfair, we hate on play. We don't have any players that we absolutely hate on. Rodon, for instance, just had a great... So I just wanted to say my piece on that. I do appreciate Jeremy for chiming in the comment section and everyone else. And I appreciate all the interaction and people watching at what is 2 a.m. on the East Coast.
I cannot wait to answer this. Okay. Now, mind you, I believe that podcasters, I would say that you guys as an audience deserve apologies from all podcasters that use their heart to decide whether or not to criticize clear performance and trends and then just give you the information that they want to give you rather than give you the information that's actually happening before their eyes. We've never made up a number from Anthony Volpe. We have never withheld stats instead of looking, as you mentioned, Jake, the past 7 games from Volpe. We clearly could have said 15 or 30 right? We clearly could have mentioned his last 1,200 at-bats in the actual regular season of baseball. We could have mentioned any of that. We chose not to. Again, I chose to ignore the error that he made today because I mentioned already how good he's been defensively overall, right? We've given the context necessary. This is a sport, technically, podcasters are opinion givers, right? You organize those opinions and then you formulate those opinions based on the numbers that are in front of your face or just off to the screen. But guys, anything we've said about Anthony Volpe, the real criticism I've ever had of this player is his consistency. That is number one. It's never been his glove. Jake, you've mentioned his arm before. I even told you I don't really care about his arm, right? If you can really glove it over there at shortstop, the most important position in the field by far, I can let that go. I can keep you at shortstop. But if you're going to be a player that plays for the Yankees long-term, 10, 15, 20 years, I would love to see that. But you know what? The first thing you should probably do offensively is for me to be able to turn a game on a Wednesday night, and I have some level of expectations of what your baseline at-bats are going to look like. For Anthony Volpe, the long-term numbers say I can't suggest I'm getting a good player offensively tomorrow, right? And people will say, well, look at his last 7 games. He's turned a corner. We've had this conversation before. We've done it, right? Anthony Volpe plays a good 10 games. We say, this guy might be a star. Then we see 30 games. He looks like this version of Anthony Volpe for 1,200 at-bats, averaged out, and it's not a good offensive player. Then we backtrack, right? Because we look at the data. So our point here is at some point or another, you have to not think with your heart. And I saw the comment, and it says that Volpe is a Yankees loyalist. This is deeper than baseball. This is not deeper than baseball. It's never been deeper than baseball. This is a baseball podcast. This is not a loyalist podcast. This isn't therapy. It's none of it, right? I don't have a relationship with any of the players on the team, for better or for worse. I went to high school with Cody Bellinger, and just last episode I mentioned offensive consistency, right? Should I withhold that information because I know him on a personal level? No, it would be ridiculous of me to do so. So I feel like it would really be cutting all you guys short to withhold information because we have some type of tie or want. Because we do, Jake, I would say, to be fair, we do like certain players on this team better than others.
Yeah.
But we are not going to withhold long-term data to tell the story of who these players are. And it doesn't make our job any easier or better if Anthony Volpe isn't consistent offensively. If he is, the Yankees probably, and I actually tweeted this earlier, if Volpe shows offensive consistency for the rest of 2025, the Yankees are winning this division. The Yankees are going deep into the postseason, and you know what that means for the two of us? Because you guys are our audience, but for Jake and I, it means more episodes, which is a good thing for our business. So if you think we want the number one prospect that's come through this system, who's now going into his age 24 season, his birthday was literally a couple days ago, you think we're rooting for this player not to work out, you are confused. So I hope that answers any question about Anthony Volpe. It does us only harm if he doesn't play well. So we hope it happens, but he hasn't done anything long-term offensively for us to suggest this is a long-term answer. So we hope it works out. We hope it changes. I've mentioned this, but so far he's only given us little 5 to 7 day windows of great offense and then off a cliff after that.
Yeah, I agree. I love the way you said that, and I think that is how we'll end it. We'll go into our Profit X part of the show. What?
We'll do a slam dunk. We'll do a slam dunk and jump into Profit X. No, let's do it. Day off tomorrow. Why not?
The whole.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I just don't understand what's expected, right? I got to give you the numbers, and if I don't, what are we, Jake? Really, in the end, if we don't give people the numbers because we just like Volpe, the person, he's a nice kid, He's 24, he's young. Well, I think that makes us buffoons if we refuse to share those numbers.
Well, this is what ultimately separates. I'm not just talking about us, but this is what separates one show from 10 others. You know, if you want a Yankees fan show where it's nothing but fan service, I'm not telling you that there's certain shows to go to. It's just not ours. So, really, we believe that we offer more from a fan service perspective in a different way that, hey, you might not know this, but now hopefully you do. And now at the water cooler or in the Zoom meeting or whatever, you can talk about this, or you can share this stat, or you can, and then you can sound like the smartest person in the room. I don't know. That's kind of how I look at it. And I like to think that we have a really, really smart audience. So, you know, I'd love doing this. But with that said, special shout out to the sponsor of today's episode and a ton of episodes, ProfitX. And we got an interesting one for you guys because the Yankees are off tomorrow. So Gary, let's talk about this Red Sox Toronto Blue Jays game to wrap up the show. Tanner Houck, why is this the number? 17.5 total outs recorded. This guy is a 7.58 ERA. You and I both talked about this off air. I do not see him with a 1.69 WHIP recording 18 outs. I just don't.
Yeah, he won't be that bad. But I will tell you this. There's no way he's going that deep into this game. And also, Boston is to some degree, and for those of you who watch other games other than the Yankees, they are getting outs, you know, at a decent clip. They're starting to catch fire. So they are in our rearview mirror. Mm-hmm. We're paying attention. And Tanner Houck is not it. He's not. I know Toronto's not the best offense you ever seen, right? Santander is not getting off to a hot start. He just hasn't. But man, no way. I'm absolutely choosing Toronto in this game. I just don't think it's close. There's no way he's getting. Would you say it was 16.5?
17.5.
Oh no, there's no way.
You're like no. Hey, we're 1-0 on the over under innings play. So, or outs, excuse me. So we picked Kyle Gibson. That worked out pretty well the other day. And we also picked 7 Ks for Carlos Rodon, 7+, got that. Mm-hmm. And then we picked the Yankees to win with the run line. So you would say, Gary, I think we'll agree, Tanner Houck, total outs recorded, 17.5 under.
Smash the under.
That's one of our picks. And then we both like I don't really care for the money line here. Actually, the run line is insane. So Toronto is getting plus 1.5.
We will take that.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, it's not going to pay out a lot, but I think to be safe here, you take the run line.
Yeah.
Because it's you know. And then the total runs, I'm going to take the over, Gary. I think both starting pitchers are going to struggle. Barrios is still working on a 4+ ERA. He still walks guys.
He's wild.
He actually walks more than Houck. He's more wild. And they both have given up 6 home runs this year. So I am going to take the over on 8 runs scored in this game.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Houck is going to get, to some degree, blown up. Mm-hmm. He's going to walk a ton of guys. Barrios is going to walk a ton of guys, probably get hit less. He has better stuff. No problem with that, but he's still facing Boston's offense. They rake. This game is 100% going over 8. Just is what it is. So we did start off 3-0.
Yep.
I think we've got a shot going 3-0 again.
Technically, we were 4-0 because you're like, yeah, I'd take Judge for the home run. I
did say that
down, but I was like, man, hey, let's for the road. Let's do dingers for the road. That'll be a new segment here.
Okay.
Yeah. Pick one home run here. And you can't think about it. You just gotta dive in. Carlos Narvaez.
Well, I know.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, first of all, Bo Bichette hasn't hit a homer since last May. If he hits a homer and you pick it, you should be rich as Bezos. you really should. That's crazy.
I'm gonna roll with where do I want to go with? I'm gonna roll with Dalton Varsho. He just somersaulted and then caught the ball in center field. Everyone's talking about him. He's gonna go yard against Tanner Houck.
Okay, Santander's hitting a home run tomorrow, so you can go ahead and book that.
So, I put in So over. So you got Santander and I got Dalton Varsho. That is dingers for the road, and
going straight to 5 guys with that money.
And that is going to do it. So real quick before you guys head on out of here, be sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. But what should you guys comment? Gary, got anything on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think most people in here think Judge is winning the MVP. What is Aaron Judge's stat line going to look like when we enter into October baseball? Obviously, it's not a given, right, that we're going to make the postseason. There's a lot of baseball left. There's still some really good teams. Boston, one of the teams that we're picking, there are some great teams behind us. So if we're looking at a postseason run, what's that stat line going to look like from Aaron Judge? I'm thinking it's looking 370, 50-plus homers, driving in over 140. Arguably the greatest season we've ever seen, right? It's right up there. So tell us what you think that season's going to look like, because I'd be interested to see if people think this is going to be a fall off because of who's protecting him, or if they think it won't matter.
Yeah, I love that. So drop the the stat line in the comment section after we finish. The chat doesn't help with the algorithm, but the comment section does. So be sure to do that, and then while you're down there, check out ProfitX. They got an app. They got a website. Check out the website. Link is in the description. Check out the app and use the code YANKSU to let them know that we sent you. That's going to do it. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you guys soon.
And like this video.